Hey yo, welcome back to AIW's The Card is Going to Change. My name is Ronald Two Legs, and as always, I am joined by the owner of Absolute Intense Wrestling, John Thorne.
Hello, I'm here in this dusty-ass office that I got going on.
Yeah, you didn't get that purifier working yet, or no?
Well, I shut it off for the recording of the podcast, but, you know, that's the downfall of me deciding to do this, like, Cleveland All-Pro archival project.
Yeah.
Like, I have I've acquired all these VHS tapes that have probably sat in people's basements for 20 years, and they're just dusty, and, like, I don't know, they're just all in this small little office room, and now, like I taste dust when I talk. Like, it's just, so I found an air purifier that I purchased during COVID, you know, when they're telling everybody to get the air purifiers going in their houses. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to be running that in here, see if that helps with the dust. But for anybody enjoying the Cleveland All-Pro Archives project, this is the dark side of that, which is a dusty VHS tapes, probably just ruining my fucking lungs right now.
Yeah, R.I.P. Thorne's lungs from the mothball, like, dust. He had, like, tornado in his eye.
I mean, some of these VHS tapes are from, like, 1996. Like, they're labeled 1996. I mean, I don't have a lot, but, you know, like, I probably have, like, 20 or 30 random-ass tapes, you know, which I think at the youngest is probably 20 years old, you know? So.
Damn.
I mean.
Well, also this week, before we get too far into it, this week we are joined by AIW talent production. You got a lot of hats you're wearing these days. Chase Oliver, what's up, Chase?
How's it going? We're here. We're doing it.
He lives in a digital world where it's just little hard drives to store things and cards.
Yeah, six hard drives dedicated to AIW, I think. They just keep growing.
I just found 4 more unused ones in my office today.
Oh my lord! Yay! We're probably going to burn through 2 or 3 of them just for 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the flip side of, you know, things take up less physical space like a VHS tape does, but man, you gotta fucking keep buying these goddamn hard drives.
Yeah. At least we got the master copies though, and they're not getting lost.
Yeah, that is the one thing that, you know, I don't know if it would ever matter or not, but, like, you know, like Smart Mark didn't keep masters, and we didn't really keep masters, you know, like when we were filming things like early on. So, like, it's just not things that anyone thought about. So it's just like you just wanted the finished product of your show, and then you go on to the next thing. Like in those days, like, you know, you're coming out of like the VHS era, which was like hit or miss for having any footage of independent wrestling, to like then you just wanted a completed DVD copy of your show that was edited. Mm-hmm. And like you just don't, you know, so nobody thought to, like, you know, keep all those tapes and everything else, you know what I mean? Like they're just into the ether somewhere. But, you know,
kind of wild.
It is, but, like, you know, like there's a lot of just wrestling, you know, that was lost. You know, in the television territory era, people would record over the tapes. You know, they would say, here's my television for the week, and then after it aired, the TV channel would send the tape back, and then they would tape over it. And there's no, you know, nothing. There's, like, tons of, like, old wrestling footage that was lost forever like that. Like, this Cleveland All-Pro stuff, like, I bet you some shows weren't even taped at all. You know, like, it's like a treasure hunt, kind of. There's like a tape. There's like a weekend that Edge wrestled on in 1996 that I have not been able to track down. I found like half of the one show, which he wrestled on the other half, and
the second half, yeah.
But like I have Christian footage in Cleveland All Pro, but I don't have the Edge footage from 1996.
Man, that's crazy.
And it's just like I don't know, like, you know, stuff is just all over. You know, I've had people like Sean Hovan, who is in the Discord, and you know, he comments a lot. He sent me a ton of stuff years ago that I sent off to Vermont to get like digitized, and that's just like that stuff's at Adam Lash's compound. So I just asked for him to send send some of that back. But yeah, it's just it's been a project. But that's kind of the flip side of our production, which we have taken in house. I guess it's on the second year, right? I mean, we've done it for about a year and a half at this point.
Yeah.
I wonder what I'm sure we could pinpoint what the actual date.
Yeah, I can tell you what I could tell you that the last date with Smart Mark Video was the first Rumble on Main Street with Arn Anderson.
9/15/2022 is when we took over for the WrestleRaiser show.
Yeah, I mean, so I bought everything, that week, and then we had the Winchester show, WrestleRaiser, which is, that was the victim of thank God it wasn't like an absolution or something,
Oh my God, yeah.
No offense to the people that enjoyed WrestleRaiser or the talents that performed on it, but that was a good show to be like, all right, let's flip the switch and see what happened, because little does everybody know is we really didn't know what the fuck we were doing at all.
Not at all.
At all. It was just Adam Lash again, who I'll mention, who I'm trying to get my other Cleveland All Pro tapes back from. He, I said, hey, what do I need? And he made like a digital like shopping cart for me and said, this is all the stuff you would need. And we bought it, and I was
away we went.
Right. I was just like, okay, now what do I set? How do we do these settings? And then I said, well, Chase, I know you did some of this in school. That's the closest, I guess denomination or whatever, you know what I mean, destination to get to this, even though you didn't learn any of live streaming or any of that stuff at school. It's like saying like to the janitor, like, hey, you're a doctor now, you know what I mean? Like you had really no training at all as far as this live production went. And we were just kind of jumped into the fire, and we watched a lot of how-to YouTube videos from what I remember.
Oh yeah, tons. I wasn't even expecting to get any of it for that day. I think the Kent show, which was next, we were kind of expecting to have it then, and then you had it all show up that day and was like, here you go, figure it out. And I was like, all right, cool, let's figure it out.
Oh, you know what? That's right. I think it did. I think it got delivered on my porch that day, like the day of WrestleRaiser. And I just said, well, I'm just going to load my car up and we're going to see what happens. Like we were literally, I forgot about that. We were unboxing everything at the Winchester.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we took it out of the cardboard boxes. That's what I was going to say. We unboxed that shit at the Winchester. I was laughing like, man, this really did just show up. And you're like, yep.
Because I was fully expecting. Why you were late. I was fully expecting to just have a hard cam, floor cam, and then edit it all in post, and we'll put it up from there. So it was, it was something.
Yeah, I remember you being like, I wanted to be here earlier, but I was literally waiting for the Amazon guy to drop it on the porch.
Yeah, because it was like tracking the package or whatever, and it said we'll arrive before 5 p.m. So like it came like literally at 5 p.m. They set it down. I put it right into my car and then drove to the Winchester, and I was like, okay, let's start putting this together and figuring it out. And obviously, the big issue, which is why that show still hasn't been released, is we discovered quickly that audio is like the hardest thing to figure out when it comes to live streaming and recording.
100%. That was for the longest time the toughest thing to master, because it would come in to the Zoom clean as a whistle, and trying to figure out how to get it that clean on the stream in OBS was the trickiest thing, until we got the Rodecaster, and that I think fixed a lot of the issues. It was almost like a year to the date for the following Wadsworth show that we just did, that Fight did receive. Hopefully they have that up ASAP, so the AIW fans can get their fix in January. But it was that show I was able to finally nail to the live stream the audio, and then I think it's been pretty solid ever since.
Yeah, I mean, that was just like a piece of equipment that I saw and was researching it, and it was an expensive piece of equipment because we were running it through the original podcast stuff initially, which was just a H6 Zoom, and that would work sometimes, but then it would not work all the time, and then I dropped the money on this Rodecaster thing, which was I think like $1,000 or something, and it seems to have really helped with the audio. But yeah, it was certainly quite a bit of money going on the old AIW credit card to get this rolling. But I think that it's really forced us to really become self-sufficient. The only thing now is I don't even know how to do it anymore because it's like it's turned into such like it's almost own like little department or unit at AIW, to where like the first couple I was like involved in setting everything up and testing, and I was a part of it. Now it just kind of between Chase and Caleb, it kind of it's taken on a little bit of a life of its own.
Thank God I have him, because he saves my ass so many times. Just because he knows everything too, because he's going to college for the same field that I was in, telecommunications. He's specializing in sports broadcasting, but just to have another body that fully understands what we're doing is beyond appreciative for him. So
Caleb just rules though too, because he's taken everything that we've done in production wise, this every like weird obstacle, and like he's like always stays really cool and like, okay, we'll just figure it out. Like if you know Caleb, you know him, like I don't know, he's just like a funny guy, and like shit comes up, stuff pops up, and he just, I don't know, man. There was a couple things that he just like he will figure it out. He I don't know. He's a smart kid.
So like the first, like for real, like we're going live on Fight, sign the contract, all of that. Chase couldn't come to it, and the like head guy at Fight came, and like I am just lying my way through knowing what we're doing, because like obviously he wanted us to like hire a production team that they that they work with and all this stuff, and I'm just like, no, we got it, and like he's talking to me, and Chase isn't there, and I cannot get anything to work, like anything. And I'm trying to like play it cool, like everything is going fine, and he's just like chatting me up for like an hour, and I'm trying not to pretty much fucking throw this laptop across the fucking room because I can't get anything to work. And I like
it wouldn't connect or something, remember?
We couldn't get anything to work, and like there was some sort of like error or something, and I said something to Caleb, and like he just sat down and he messed with it for like 25 minutes, and then he fixed the problem, and we still don't know what the problem is. That's the thing that's this podcast may be a little boring, I don't know, because that's the stuff that happens is like something goes wrong and you have no idea how you fixed it or what fixed it, but it works, and like that's usually what happens. Like sometimes it's like you just unplug it and you plug it back in, and then everything's fine. But I'll never forget that. Is like the head guy at Fight TV is just like, like, hey, like we're like the first big kind of like signing for this big new push for Fight Plus and all this stuff, and he came to like talk in person, and I'm just like, we have all this stuff, and like we had only done it 2 times, and we have no fucking idea how it works. Chase isn't there because he had booked a wedding to film. Yep. And it's just like me to try to figure it out. And like, thank God Caleb was there, because he fucking bailed us out big time on that. But we've just been kind of like faking it till we make it this whole time, and I still feel like shit goes wrong and we don't totally know what we're doing, but we know a little bit more than we did that we did. So like it's certainly been trial by fire though.
Oh yeah. I tell people all the time, like when I what I went to school for telecommunications, and not necessarily that you have to have a degree in order to do it. I feel like more times than not, I am just YouTubing how to fix, or if I run into an issue and I don't know exactly how to make what I want come to life, editing, for instance, it's always go to YouTube and ask. And that's literally all we do. I feel like is anything we run into, just troubleshoot, figure it out, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, but like it has forced us to become self-sufficient, because like, before, like we would have to, okay, like we got to figure out a date with the venue that works. Okay. Now we have dates with the venue that works. Now we have to find a date with SmartMark Video that works with their filming schedule. Oh, okay. Sometimes you have to move a date. Like most of the time you didn't, but like sometimes it was just like, oh, we can't get you anybody that day. You have to do it another day. Then after you worked it out with the venue and the film crew, then you got to then you had to find the wrestlers. You know what I mean? Like you had to kind of work backwards, for so long. And like, most of, 9 times out of 10, SmartMark Video was super accommodating. I'm not talking bad about them or anything, but it was just kind of like it
was a process.
We had to go through this whole process before we could say, okay, here's the next date. To where now, like, we can just do whatever we want, and it's just like, you can, as soon as you get the venue, you can book the wrestlers because, we know that the crew is already going to be there, and like, I think it's also really kind of elevated the AIW Academy in a way, because now people learn different aspects of what goes into, being a wrestler.
Yeah. Being able to have an entire crew that's in-house is a good thing and a bad thing. Like the good thing is we have students. The bad thing is none of them have learned to do any of this before I show them, for the most part. And like, I'll give props to X and Nick for stepping up, because they mainly run floor cam, and from when they started to where they are now is a night and day difference. And I think that's sometimes a benefit, like, for somebody who's watched wrestling.
It helps them be performers, like,
yeah,
they, they know what a camera's looking for, when they're wrestling.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, them being wrestling fans, learning how to wrestle now, debuting, like, they kind of understand like where the camera should be, what the cameras should be picking up, and they just have a different perspective on it too, versus getting someone who may know how to run a camera but has never seen a wrestling show before, may not know exactly what to look for.
Yeah, it's just, and it's really like, it makes them more well-rounded, with more skill sets, and, but like I've told you, the detriment is, wrestlers are wrestlers, so it's just like, you're not dealing with production people. You're dealing with wrestlers that are, pretending to be production people. So like, sometimes that can come with its own challenges for sure. And especially like, after a student becomes a debuted wrestler, they don't necessarily want to go back to doing those jobs again, so they almost kind of duck and dodge and hide a little bit. And, then you got to kind of find, it's almost like, after fresh meat, you got to find, fresh meat that want to enter into the production realm and learn some of these jobs and tasks. And, not everybody is like, it's just, and like, I don't know if it's generational or what, but like, not everybody is like, just like wanting to jump in feet first, and learn everything. Some people just kind of stand there and want to be, they wait to be told what to do. And, sometimes they're told what to do and then they hide from what they're told to do, and it's just like, that's what's challenging. But, on the flip side of that is, we're pretty much running on spare parts, so to speak, like, it's like, we just pretty much, we bought this stuff and then, it's like figured out later. And, try to make it work and make it affordable for the company, because the equipment was so much money. And then once if you were looking at hiring real production people, that's like a whole other onion, like peel from the onion, so to speak. Like it's just it can become a really like a snowball effect, which is like what Smart Mark Video does. You know what I mean? It's just like, not only you got to pay them for the production, but you got to pay the the crew and all that stuff, and it could get rather expensive.
I will say it has been a little bit of a challenge post fresh meat class. The last graduating class, it seemed there was definitely handful of students that were more eager to jump back and kind of learn some of those skills, camera operating and anything, even gaffing tape down at points. The newer class, it doesn't seem like there's as many students who are like, yeah, let me I'll hold the camera or do this or that. So we're definitely in need. If there's any students out there and you're just shy and there's something you want to try, always feel free to open your mouth and say, hey, let me I can help or do this or that, because it's definitely been lighter on production since the graduating class. I will say that.
Yeah, especially like for these other places that we go to, like Black Label and soon to be Alpha One. Like there was a Black Label show, I can't remember the date, but I was kind of scrambling around looking for help, and like Caleb, that usually goes with me, right? Dustin was going for commentary, and then I think Cool Ass Andy stepped up to go to. It was either him or Austin James, because Nick and X both had dates to actually wrestle, and like I totally get that. Like, you train to be a wrestler, you want to be a wrestler, you don't want to be a camera op. So it's just trying to then find like that next group or the next individual to want to step up. And I try and tell the students all the time, at least the ones that'll listen, like, everybody wants to be, main event superstar, give me the world title and all of this. And sometimes that's just not realistic. Like that's only a handful of people. And like, to give a comparison, like there's only 32 NFL head coaching gigs, right? Like only 32 people in the world get to be a head coach in the NFL. Not even that many like get to be the main event wrestler in like the WWE at the moment. So to like want to do that is like you're aiming for a lot, and by all means go for it. But at the same time, like everyone says, you have a bump card, and who knows when your body's going to break down. Like I've had my fair share of injuries. So if you want to be involved in the business of wrestling, try and learn as many different jobs or like responsibilities or different duties that you can, whether it's commentary or production or ring announcing or this or that. Like there's so many different things that you can do. So I just always encourage, like, learn it all, figure out what you like and what you don't like, and then go from there. So, but sometimes I feel like I'm just speaking into the void.
So speaking of injury then, Chase, is there anything you want to discuss your rehab that you've been doing? How close are you to coming back? Where are you kind of at with your injury? Because you had a pretty major injury the last time we saw you. In Youngstown? Where was it, Youngstown?
Absolution.
Absolution. Youngstown.
Oh, you're good.
It was Carlito, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was main event with Carlito. So Absolution, yeah. So kind of give us the rundown from there.
Everything so far so good. Saw my doctor earlier this month. He said everything looks fine. I can slowly start getting back to training for wrestling, I should say. So looking to get back up to practice soon. I was there last week just to really watch more than anything, like a couple rolls, but nothing to really test the waters. I've been really cautious with this one. I've torn my ACL. I've snapped cartilage in my other knee twice. I have broken my foot. I've snapped my AC joint in my shoulder. So I've taken my fair share, and the Achilles, I think, was the scariest one, just because for some, that's a death sentence. There's NFL players that can tear that, and they're not the same, or they don't come back how they should. So I've just been super cautious with that. Training in the gym has been good so far. I've been really starting to push the weight a little bit more consistency with that. The main thing is teaching that area to be explosive. So that's mainly what I've been trying to work on, just individually, I guess, aside from physical therapy, because we wrapped that up. I think we had 4 months of that, and the last 4 weeks we really started pushing it hard, which was good, but still haven't worked on anything in regards to like pivoting, cutting, shifting weight on a dime, and sometimes you have to do that in the ring too. So, but you know, we're here. We're going to get through it. I made it a personal mission to, I want to at least be able to prove to myself that I can come back from this. So
Right.
in regards to like a timetable to like get back into the ring, I have no idea. It's just kind of play it by ear.
Okay. Do you think that the production work has kind of helped you or discouraged you? You know, like I could see both sides of it. You know, I could see it. You know, I could see it being good to still be involved, but I could also see it kind of also being a little bit detrimental because you're not involved and you're kind of forced to watch it. So like I was just curious where you're at on that.
No, dude, you're spot on. So the other injuries prior, I kind of just went straight to the sideline. Like when I broke my foot in Indianapolis, and then later that year, or going into 21, I think is when you guys were doing the Go for Broke stuff, and I was just kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I wasn't really involved with any of that. And being involved now with the production is great because I can still be around. It's nice. It's given me a chance to also nail a lot of the production stuff, not having to necessarily focus on getting the production ready, off the ground, pass it off to Caleb, go figure out my match, go do my match, and then come back and sit back down and then do the rest of the production stuff, because those were fun but stressful days. And
all the pictures I have of you directing in your gear.
Yep. Oh yeah.
That happened multiple times. Also eat it while eating Ronald's post-match.
Oh yeah.
Fries in hand.
Oh yeah. And I love the challenge of that, because to me that made the wrestling easier, if that makes sense. Like I wasn't focused on the most detailed things to do in the ring. It was kind of like, what do we need to hit? What do we need to do? And then it was just, to me, I think a little bit easier to figure out like matches from there. Because I think the production was just so stressful. So it made figuring out matches a little bit simpler. But going back to like, that's been quite tough, is sitting down and making everybody else look good when in the back of my head, I just sit there and go, man, I could be out there right now, and having just a whole different perspective of like our product and from the production lens, and then kind of figuring out like, what can I do when I'm healthy or when I'm in the ring to also make it better, if that makes sense.
Was there anything, what was your go-to? Right when you got hurt, obviously you're on crutches, you're kind of tied down to the couch or the bed. Are you a video gamer? What did you kind of do to kind of keep yourself busy?
Oh God. I wish I remembered, because when I snapped the Achilles, depression, I think, was at an all-time high. Sure. I was so upset about this one, because I had just gotten over the foot when Liz Frank broke that, and I thought I was like starting to do a little bit better, at least in 2023. Like up until July when I snapped it, I thought I was making a lot of progress, and then as soon as that happened, I was just like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So it's just, I don't know. I try not to dwell on it a whole lot, but I did have a lot of stuff to get caught up on though, so
just
that helped
production
kill time.
Work or what? I would say like you're not like
re-editing shows, dude. I got the Xbox Series X or whatever the newest one was, and I may have opened it twice or turned it on twice. I just So it just, the Achilles came at a terrible time too, because I was like, my bills don't care if my Achilles is torn. You know what I mean? Like, that's
the tough thing about it. Yeah, you get injured, you know, you still got to show up to work and pay the bills.
Yeah, there were just other priorities that were higher on the list. So, but I made it through it. That's it's always a plus.
So far, you've made it through.
So far, yeah. God, heaven forbid. So.
Yeah, so I guess to like kind of bring it like a little full circle though, like how do you find the AIW school? Like what leads you to even becoming a wrestler? Because I'm sure, nobody's too up to date on any of that, any of that information.
Oh, yeah. When I was 10 years old, my best friend introduced me to SmackDown. The first SmackDown I remember seeing was Batista and Rey Mysterio challenging for the tag titles in late 05, which was awesome. I think Melina got on his lap and they teased that they were having sex or something, came back from commercial, and Batista was like, oh, that was a hell of a warm-up. Nah, I'm going to go out there and beat those guys' asses. So then he went out there and then him and Ray won the tag belts. It was awesome. So I was kind of hooked from that ever since. It was wicked. I was 10 years old. So when I get to college, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and that's when I jumped into the production stuff because I kind of knew how to work a camera. At least my buddies and I, when we backyarded, I was the guy that took all of the stuff that we filmed and edited it and made a bunch of stuff off of it, which was so cool. And halfway through college, because I just knew this is what I wanted to do, was wrestle, or at least give it a shot. I didn't want to be 90 on my deathbed saying, man, I wish I would have tried that, So my counselor at YSU also had trained to be a wrestler before he just moved on to other things in his life, and him and I would sit down and just talk wrestling, not even classes or what I should be taking or this, that, and the other. And then I think it was heading in my junior years when we found AIW, and he was like, Johnny Gargano was the coach, or it at the time was, before he went to NXT and then got signed full-time. So we found just AIW, Google searching, and I was like, all right, cool, this is what I'm going to do. And then I reached out, and I can't remember exactly who I talked to. It was either you, Dom, or Biggins. And I went up there, watched one class, I think paid the $50 or whatever it was.
Was Johnny still the coach?
No, at that point it was Dom was in full control at that point. Johnny made a stop at one point. I think I got a cool picture with the tag title that he had just won, but I don't think I took one class under him. He was in Orlando after that.
So probably would have been Biggins that would have responded to you then at that
that
point.
Checks out. Yeah. So I watched one class and I was like, all right, cool, let's do it. And I just jumped in and that was it. Had, I think, 6 or 7 months to get ready for our debut, which is kind of wild, considering that some of the students now have a year plus until they debut. I think we were the third class that was, set to go. So I felt really underprepared, but, hey, we did the thing with a broken bottom rope.
I feel like you guys were probably the second class.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys were kind of in that transition.
Was Kaplan was the first class, right?
Yeah.
And then Kaplan. Dom was the second.
Weird Body too.
Kind of.
First one, I think, right?
Yeah. Maybe Dom was
his was weird.
Some people were kind of in this in between, to where there was more of a schedule. I'm trying to think. I guess. I think maybe there wasn't a set okay, you're gonna debut in May or whatever. I think some people just kind of got thrown into the fire, Dom.
Dom and Dan, I think.
Yeah, maybe that's the set. Maybe that's a second class, Dom and Dan in the Weird World, maybe.
Because it was short.
Weird Body was in the first class, but
that's what I was gonna say. I thought
Worldwide
he was one of the very
later.
first.
Worldwide came later, so maybe you are kind of the third class. Maybe there was a 1.5 class.
Love that.
I can't remember. Somebody should sit down and try to figure out the history of the AIW Academy because it's a blur, to be honest with you.
No, I totally get that.
So where were
everything
we at?
From when I debuted?
What place were we at? Were we at the garage, or were we at Cal Corrals, or were we at?
What was right before Old School?
The Cal Corral MMA gym.
Yeah. I showed up there for maybe a month, and then we moved everything to Old School. And this was all the way, like, kind of where we are now, but it was just bare bones empty. At Old School, like where the ring is now currently, it was
because they were like
completely empty.
That gym used to just be that one section, that first door that you came in. And
they expanded it.
They were expanding, and then they've expanded like 3 more times since then. Because we're like the dirty little secret in there. They just keep moving us further down. Every time that they expand, they just expand to move us further down and out of everybody's sight.
But where it is now is crazy to see, like from when I started training, I guess. And like Derek getting involved and Dom and the experience that they've been able to get over the years, for the lack of a better term, like Dom just got thrown into the fire and it was like, all right, this is yours now. So we were just kind of all figuring it out, for the lack of a better phrase.
Oh yeah, I mean, Dom certainly should.
It's crazy.
Dom certainly should not have been training people, but like, in theory, but like he had martial arts background, martial arts teaching background, high school wrestling teaching background. And we just kind of gave him Johnny's curriculum and just said, do this, this, and this, show him this, this, and this, and like, we just kind of figured it out from there, and things have evolved over time. But, there wasn't anybody else to really take it over, and do it. And nobody wanted it either. You know what I mean? Nobody wanted to do that. It was kind of like this weird, in between thing. And, that's what I think is great is, we survived out of that, and now it's become like this whole system. Like the AW Academy is like a system. Like so many guys that got put in there with veterans, in the Mount Carmel era or wherever, you know what I mean? Then, everybody learned something, and then now they can bring it back to the new people, and now like the students have now all become kind of like the teachers, you know what I mean? The more, veteran students, like you'll get PMEs up there running classes on Friday nights, and, it's pretty incredible to see how, the kind of pay it forward mentality that everybody has, and like how, it's really just become this, it really is like a developmental system in a way to where, everybody's kind of gone and taken their experiences, and now they bring it back to these, young new kids.
Oh, for sure. It's really cool to see from when I started to where it has evolved into, and just everything else that comes forward with it. From that to how we run shows now versus then, the talent that are on the shows. Like, I mean, holy cow, last year we debuted 6 kids, and this year we debuted another 7, or I guess 2023, right? So that's 13 new students, new wrestlers, I guess, on the shows now, 13 new cast members. And then it's just like, holy crap, we're just pumping out talent left and right, it feels like. And then the next thing is like, how do we get all these people on the shows,
Right, in which, there's been, some good advancement on that. So hopefully some news coming soon on adding some of those Thursday nights. I had some good meetings last week. I don't want to jump the gun and make the announcement just yet, but, we're hopeful that we can add about, 4, 5, 6 Thursday shows next year, or this year, I guess, throughout the year, spread them out a little bit to where, they would be really focused more on, the younger students, working with more experienced students and learning and kind of getting them in there, for some real good reps in front of crowds. That's, I guess, assuming crowds will come to see that. That's the hope, is people would come to see it. But that's the best experience you can get. You can do 200 practice matches at the school in front of just other students, but it's so much different than when you get in front of a real live crowd, and you have to improv and go, and you can't stop and reset. So there were some good talks that happened last week. So I'm hopeful that we can kind of it's just gonna help continue to develop people. And like you said, I guess I've never thought of it that way, but I guess they technically are cast members, like in a way. So it's interesting that we can kind of almost have this spin-off, I guess, if you're talking industry lingo. We can kind of have like a spin-off series, with these new characters, and kind of give them their own little platforms, which that's the kind of stuff that gets me excited now. Like we are pretty good at putting on a good show, at this point, and work, and showcasing a high caliber, show. But doing stuff like this, like these, like that's why I always really loved the Winchester shows. It was just a little bit more raw, a little bit more, just rough around the edges, which, to me was a little bit more intriguing and a little bit more exciting because, anything could have really happened, Now we did have also had some crazy, great matches at the Winchester, and but for the most part, you would see a lot of the kind of people coming up, getting more ring time, and that's what I liked about it, because it could have kind of went, like it's just you don't know what you're gonna get, and that's where you can get surprised by somebody and get excited. And it's just like, it's like sports or whatever, like, you don't know, like, somebody could be a great talent, but, like, you don't know until you see it, live and in action, like at real game speed. So, that's what I'm looking forward to. I think that we'll be able to add some more of those shows, and hopefully people come out to support them. Obviously,
for sure.
We're gonna try to make them a little bit, more affordable and things like that. But I'm hopeful that we can, officially, lock it in by this week or next week and get an announcement out there, because I'm trying to, get this going, by February at the latest.
Yeah.
The Thursday shows are some of my favorite, just because, like what you said, you never know who you're going to see. It was always a testing ground of if you were going to see somebody new in AIW, especially somebody that, Thorne, you were just going to like, hey, let's take a chance on this person. I've heard the name around here or there. They would pop up on Thursday shows, and we saw a handful of people. Was that the first place we saw Alec Price was on a Thursday at the Winchester?
No, he was a Jayla, but we saw
Jayla. Okay.
We saw other people, like Hoodfoot came through there, and all kinds of, like
Max Caster. We did Joey Janela's last show there before he got signed.
Dan Champion came through there, like all kinds of, just you'd get. That's where I believe Katie Arquette, first showed up was there. There's just
we had Wardlow on a Thursday show once.
Yeah,
he did the New Talent Initiative, but in Akron. But yeah, there was just all kinds of, just random. That's where you could get some random stuff going on.
And it'll also be nice too, in case there are people that want to try production stuff for the first time. I'd rather them make their mistakes on maybe a Thursday show, or like when we have these pop-ups that show up like North Canton or the Great Lake Geek Fest that we had when we did the Hartville shows. That's a nice opportunity for some of these people to get those extra reps in, versus throwing them into the fire for like a Hell on Earth Absolution Gauntlet for the Gold, where there's a lot more going on.
And I will say that we probably won't, like, I don't know if we'll live stream the Thursdays. We'll definitely put them up, like VOD style. Maybe we'll live stream them. I don't know. We'll, like, I just don't like, going into a place without having like a full on test of their, their internet and if it can work and all that stuff. But I don't know. Like, I think, maybe like live to tape or something. You could still set everything up and do it live to tape and have it ready to go over to fight the next day or something like that. Like. I don't know. We'll have to see how it all unfolds, but I think that we're getting close to locking something down like that, and that just gives more more reps for us in the production game, and like you said, it's just become like, it's just interesting. It's become such a well-rounded, you know what I mean? Like, you can learn so much at the AW Academy other than being a wrestler. Like, there's just so much other stuff that you can learn especially when you're doing live. We're doing essentially live television, a live broadcast.
Yeah.
So it's like we have time cues to hit, and sometimes we get a little crazy. We've done those like live promos, live walkouts, with the camera, following people through the entranceway. Like, we've done some interesting things, and I know that we're looking to do more of that stuff and really kind of make more of a, I guess, a television presentation. Would you say? I don't know.
Yeah, no. I was going to say, just to put a bow on the last segment, but I think it's so cool for the opportunities they're at their school now, because these were things that I was trying to do, I guess, when I first came in. My internship at YSU, I did through AIW, and I loved that I was able to pay that forward to Caleb and be that to him like Dom was for me, and being able to do the different things, the different projects that we can just to help the brand. And I have a lot of ambitious goals for 2024. Finally having a full year of 2023 under our belt, and the things that we were able to do with the walkouts, the live promos from like Bitcoin before they broke up, tail of the tapes, recaps at the beginning of the show, packages for wrestlers to hype up their matches going forward, and a whole list of different things that I want to be able to incorporate to do things that other independent wrestling companies aren't doing. I think there's a lot of things that we can do that just seem simple and easy to me, and then it's all about executing it and perfecting it, and then the doors that I think those can open up are endless. Just to make the live stream experience, like you were saying, like a full on television show. And that's how I kind of look at wrestling as a whole. Like, we have our cast of characters, and they're all involved in a bunch of different things that are happening. And it's, like, where do you want them to go from like point A to point B to point C, and kind of figuring that out, because anybody can just, I think, put together a show with matches and then they just happen. But I think getting people to care about your characters and what they're doing and how they do what they do and where they're going is so intriguing to me. And being able to kind of do that with the production side, I think that's why like a WWE is having a ton of success right now, is because their cast of characters are, everyone's got something going for them. And I think what they have going on is interesting and easy to follow, and things just keep developing show after show after show. Like, you had me going back and watching some stuff from the 2002 SmackDown 6 era, and the first 4 or 5 shows that I watched are absolutely incredible. Like, if you want some great wrestling, go back and watch that stuff. Wrestling shows, I guess I should say, to specify.
Yeah, like television, full products.
Like, everybody from the top of the card to the bottom of the card had something going on. The stuff that was happening in between the matches all made sense from the first backstage skit to the last one. Kind of told a story over the course of the entire show, and then ending with a cliffhanger to not only get you to watch the next SmackDown show, but also the Raw show. Like, they intertwine these shows so well from like the beginning of July to, I think I'm at the beginning of August. Just wrapped up Brock Lesnar beating Hogan, which was awesome.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff in there. That's why I kind of told you, like, after we met, I specifically told you to go back and watch that stuff and watch how, they were able to do stuff like that, because I think that's probably like such, just a forgotten way of doing wrestling, presentation and television. And it was just so, and like, we did use a lot of that stuff when we did Go for Broke too. Like, I just always kind of look back on that time frame. It was like a couple months or whatever it was, and like, it's just such good stuff to where everything is making sense and stories are progressing in seconds. Like, it's not minutes. Things are moving forward, and in seconds, with these backstage segments that I think are great. But there's just a lot of there's a lot of stuff that we want to do this year, and we're hopeful that we can accomplish it. And it's I have to say, thank I know you said it, but thank God for Caleb, because he has really bailed us out, so many times, and he's become such an asset to this whole thing. And I know he wants to wrestle, and he's getting close to being a wrestler,
Yeah.
but he has just been such an asset to what we've put together and what we're trying to build. And I think it's just evolved into this great kind of this great thing for the whole company, because we are self-sufficient at this point. We can move things forward without having to ask people. We can take chances, it's not like when you hire a production team and you got to clear all these things, you know what I mean? I'm more of kind of like a shotgun, on the fly kind of guy, So if we have something, let's do it. And let's, things kind of I think that's an exciting environment, but if we were hiring somebody, you got to say, hey, we want to do this. What do you think about doing this? Can you do this? Can you be here for this?
And you're at their mercy.
Right now, it's just hey, let's fucking do it. You know what I mean? And that's what we do. And it's given us so much more freedom. And I really think it has just given us so much, just more long-term viability to stay in business, and it caused us to grow, and it caused us to invest, and it caused us to become self-sufficient all at the same time, which that's, I know I've mentioned how much money, we threw down to get this stuff, but on the flip side of that, it's invaluable to have that kind of freedom, and that kind of, we bought it all, you know what I mean? Now it's just now we're working it off, but it's it's given us so much, more, it just caused us to become such a better company overall. And, it's helped us get, creative, and we're able to do all these things these the backstage pass promo segments and all this stuff, to where, I talked about this in the Discord the other day, but it's complimentary content, right? We don't shove all those promos into the stream, but they're filmed. And if you want more, if you want to get more in depth with AIW and this cast of characters, we put that out there for you. If you don't have to, you know what I mean? You could just watch the show and that's it. But we're creating this complimentary content, and I know that we're going to make more of it in 2024, to where people that want to dig in more can, and people that don't have to. And it's not really going to, it's not really going to impact their experience too much either. But, for people that do dig in, we're giving them more of that meat that's been left on the bone for all these years. And I think that is something that has great potential for us to really solidify, our fan base and our quote unquote hardcores that we call them, that we're just creating so much more of an experience for them. But we also are, presenting the same experience that can play to the casual fan that just comes to see wrestling for the night.
Oh, for sure. There's some people, that just want to watch the matches and the wrestling, and that's it. They don't necessarily want stories or reasons to get invested. The match is enough for them, and the overall experience of being there live, I think, is different than the viewing experience on Fight. And for someone like me, I think wrestling is at its best because it's a form of art. It's theater, and the matches. Not that they're, how do I phrase this in the best way? I think sometimes the matches are almost secondary to the overall reason of why we're watching them sometimes. Not all the time, but I think when there's a great story involved and it makes the match better. It's
kind of like a lost art in independent wrestling, which I do understand, but we are going to try to get a little bit more in depth with storytelling, because we aren't booking. We can't book these high level world travel talents on every show, to fill out the shows. So we have to kind of, we have to use our resources and get creative and try to build some stories and things like that, which we've always kind of done. But I know that we want to do more of it this year. But, if you do have a story, it can, it can make things mean so much more. And like a perfect example of that is like, look at Absolution, like look at the slow burn that we did for a year on PME being heels, knowing that I don't think people necessarily realize this, or if I've talked about it, but you may not know it, but Absolution as a whole was built around PME turning on Matt Cardona. And we knew that was going to be the biggest moment, maybe of the entire year. Which, the flip side of that was the unexpected Fonzie turn, which evoked crazy emotion from people. Like Absolution was 100% built on the idea of people have been along for this ride with PME being bad guys. And at times it was really difficult, you know what I mean? Probably for fans. And fans were sick of it and fans were upset, but you have to kind of drive that stuff in there to get the reaction that I really believed in was going to happen when they turned on Matt Cardona, and thankfully it did. It certainly paid off, and I was right. But that whole show was built, that whole year and a half was built around that moment, and that meant so much more than them having a match on the show. Like they didn't have a match at Absolution. They did that, and that was bigger than anything that they could have done in the ring, in my opinion. But that is hard to sell to wrestlers sometimes, because wrestlers are wrestlers and they want to wrestle, and that can be difficult. But to me, PME is a perfect example of going along with it, and they may not have been totally happy about it, but they were certainly happy at the end result, and like so was the crowd. And I think if we could do more stuff like that, and we can create this little bubble a little bit more, we can hopefully create more moments like that. And that's kind of what our hope is with adding all of these different layers with production and promo and stuff like that. And maybe this is like super boring for people to listen to expose this a little bit, but that just but that's a true story. Is Absolution was built around, and that's no disrespect to anybody that wrestled on Absolution, or Broner and Cardona, or any of the marquee matches, but the show was built around that PME moment, and I knew that it was going to be one of the biggest pops in company history, and it was. And to me, that was like a proof of concept that we could do more of this. But people have to trust us and go along for that ride, which, I know fans don't necessarily like when it's happening.
Yeah. But the key word there is moments. And I think that's one of the biggest thing in wrestling. Like I there's some things where I may not even remember any of the moves that they did in that match, just given random wrestler A, random wrestler B. But the moments are the things that stick out. I think that when you look back on, like PME, them turning on Cardona, and then everything that followed with that, with Broner winning, right? Like PME winning the belts after this year-long feud with To Infinity and Beyond. And after, like, I mean, I can name their signatures that they do, but if you asked, like, what, move did they do 3 minutes in, like, I couldn't tell you that. But them holding up the belts after finally conquering the villains was the coolest thing in the world, right? And just building those moments, I think, and focusing on those, because then I think it'll make everything else that much cooler, much more important.
And I do realize that you can't do all of that, for the show. And like, you do have to be independent wrestling for the sake of independent wrestling. And you just got to throw some fucking wild matches out there too. We're not.
Oh yeah.
We're not going to stop doing
Kaplan and Janela. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. We're not going to stop doing stuff like that either. Like I do realize that there is a balance. I'm not trying to go full, old guy storytelling, like wrestling on everybody.
Yeah.
But like, we are going to try to do more of that because you get so much more mileage out of, especially when you're building, this quote unquote cast of characters from within. The majority of people, on AIW shows, month to month or week to week are homegrown talents. So, you have to kind of, put a little bit more meat on the bone for that stuff. But like, we are going to throw out, like a Dex Royal and a Speedball every now and then. And, I do realize that there's a balance for that as well. So I don't want people to think that any of that stuff's going away. But we are going to try to do a little bit more with the storytelling aspect of things and, find that balance in 2024.
I think it's a lot easier to do now that we've had the X amount of years with the school to be able to produce our, homegrown talent versus having to fly in name after name on the indies back in like 2015, for instance, right? Like it was just a totally different era. Being able to have our own
and you can't
group
really
of guys that we...
Yeah, you can rely on this crew, and it's like a sports team at this point, like most of these players are going to be available, give or take, and there's more that you can do when you know that you have a solid, team that's going to be there, show to show, as opposed to like when you are building it with these spare parts and these attraction names. Like it was not as easy to, especially in those days, like I said, where you gotta do the venue, then you gotta do the film crew, then you gotta find the wrestlers, you know what I mean? So like you could have Eddie Kingston on this show, but then maybe Eddie Kingston's not available on the next one, you know what I mean? Because the building confirmed the date with you late and he's already booked somewhere else, you know what I mean? And like you just gotta deal with stuff like that. But I do think that there are a couple of questions in the Discord. Is that right, Pat? Are you still awake? Are you still awake?
Yeah. Well, hey, no, I didn't want to interrupt. You guys were going, of course. You know what I mean? I'm not going to stick my foot in there if I don't. I don't want to be in the way. But yeah, you guys were going pretty good. But yeah, we did have a couple questions in the Discord. If you're interested about the Discord, if you get newer to the podcast, of course, sign up for the Patreon and get access to the Discord. We're always taking any questions in the Discord to try to answer them on the pod. Jose sent in a question. Any of the, in quotation marks, fun horror stories of troubleshooting kind of issues that you want to air the grievances on, Chase, or anything you just thought, before the show starts? We've kind of lamented on this podcast how, every time there's just some random, problem or something that comes up and we're flying by the seat of our pants back there. Is anything you want to, throw out there and laugh about now in the moment?
Oh, dude, there's something every show, it feels like. This past show, Terror in the Temple, it may not be like that big of a deal, but to me it was. I completely forgot when I was doing the lower thirds and importing them for Kaplan and Janela. I just forgot theirs. I don't know how I glanced over that. And I noticed it because, so I'll clear out the ones like as they're going out and they're done and they're 2 minutes into their match, I'll just get them out of OBS. So the list gets shorter and shorter and shorter, and they're getting ready to go out. They're, right next to me, about to hit the curtain. And I look over and I'm like, oh, why is Mikey Montgomery and Vikingo looking here and Kaplan and Janela are next? Like, it just didn't register. And I was like, oh shit, I fucking forgot their lower third. So then I had to jump into Canva and a folder and pull theirs, and I'm creating this and making sure the spelling's right, importing it, sizing it as they are hitting the curtain, and then being able to put that on. I probably had a 90-second window to make that happen, and I was like, all right, cool, now I know we can do that in case it ever pops up again.
That's kind of stuff that makes you feel alive, though, right?
Oh, yeah. That's a lot of the production stuff, just the stress that it's good stress. I don't think any of it's bad.
It's your juices
and
flowing.
Then yeah, 100%. Like when Pedro's running around saying we're about to lose the venue, and Mikey and Eric and Marina were about to jump off the balcony, and it's just like, all right, cool, here we go.
Are
we still good to go?
You got to be a little better about that, because I'm pretty sure you just laughed at his face. You're like,
I didn't know what was happening.
You're like,
I was like, they're getting ready to go.
He's screaming.
Yeah, he's screaming. I look over. I'm like, are we good? Are they gonna like shut the match down? Like, what are we doing here? Like, trying to formulate a backup plan just in case something happens, right? Yeah, that was one. There's stuff that happens all the time. Like, I remember getting Dude, Paul London for Bow Down. So when we tagged, we did our intermission promo, and it may have went 6 minutes. And for some reason, the microphone just decided to shit out on the camera that we were using. And we had to go redo that. And we got it a little bit down in time. I think it was 4 minutes, which was still... I look at that and go, holy shit, I just did like a promo or a skit with Paul London. Like, that's so fucking cool to me. But we did that at 6:20, and I am putting that on, or I'm sorry, 7:20. I'm putting that on the computer, rendering it out with the others to then dump into OBS. And I had that finalized at 7:29, so a minute before we went live on Fight. Because I had to resize that and everything too. So that was really cool. It's like 7 minutes out. Refilming a promo with Pim.
One thing I actually told you the other, like yesterday or today, I think it was, is, you know, you're running down this, you know, this kind of itinerary that you want to do and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, I said, listen, I said, you have to get in your head that wrestlers are wrestlers. And this is not the most important stuff to them, and the sooner you realize that, you're going to be less offended, and you're going to be accepting of the way that you gotta have to bob and weave with wrestlers, because wrestlers, you know, this is the most of the time, this stuff is the last thing that they want to do. They want to show up when they want to show up. They want to talk about their match. They want to sell their merch. Then they want to do their match. Then they want to be done with their match and talk about their match. Then they want to look at Twitter about their match. Then they want to go sell more merch. Then they want to do a promo. You know, so it's like, I actually told you this,
which is so wild to me.
But I was like, hey, you know, the sooner that you get it through your head, you're going to be so much less. It's going to be so much easier on your mental health when you realize, like, okay, you know, like, this is how it's going to be. Like, it just helps you kind of navigate. Like, I've learned my lesson. Like, early IW, I used to fucking blow a gasket at people. And, like, you just realize, like, they're wrestlers, and, you know, there's a reason why they're wrestlers, and they're not trying to, you know, like, run corporate America or something. You know what I mean? Like, they are, like, and that's not a dig at wrestlers. Wrestlers just are different. They have different brains, you know, like, it's different. So, you know, like, the sooner you kind of realize that you have to work with them in their kind of natural habitat, so to speak, you know, like, it's going to be easier, and you're going to figure out ways to get it done better than saying, hey, come fucking do this promo, you know, like, why aren't you doing this fucking promo?
Yeah.
Because, like, then when you start yelling at them, then they really don't want to do it, you know, and then it's just like, then you're getting more stressed out, because now you're getting more down to the wire, to where it's just like, you gotta have you gotta kind of have like a freestyle, like, almost mentality when it comes to some of this stuff, because until somebody does something that works, they don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, so until somebody has this promo that people fucking bite on, they think like, you know, I don't care about promo. I'm here to be a wrestler. You know what I mean? And then, so it's just, it's kind of like a trial and error with stuff like that.
Yeah. Like, if there's some things that we can do, cool. And, you know, if they don't happen, you know, they don't happen. It's kind of one of those it is what it is type of things. It's just hopefully that some of the things that sometimes I want to do with the streams and the shows, I think for the betterment of the brand. And then not only that, but then it helps everybody else involved too. So, like, there are some ideas on the plate that I definitely want to do. And I think it's been said so many times, like, AIW is like, you go through AIW and then a couple other little stops, and then, like, there's so many people that have passed through here that have gone on to do bigger and better things, right? Whether it's with WWE or AEW, and been able to go there and make a lot of money. And I don't know about other places, but, like, I would love for, like, what we do to be like independent developmental, as weird as that sounds. Like, I think there's so many different things that we can do to help the wrestlers get well-rounded and better off, so then when they go to other places on the independents, or if they end up making their way up to the next level, it's not going to be this weird, dark, uncomfortable environment, and then they have to kind of learn everything from scratch. It's oh yeah, we were doing that over in Cleveland. Like I've been able to do that, or I've done this before. So they go in there with a different mindset or a different mentality, and I don't know how to stress this enough, but like everything that like I want to do with AIW for the brand goes to the wrestlers too, and I want everybody to succeed. Like I would love for everybody to make $1 million. Like there's nothing that we do or that I want to do that's for the detriment of any of the talent on the roster. Like not going into this to make anybody look bad. Like I want everybody to look great, accentuate the positives, hide their weaknesses and negatives, get everybody fucking over, and then everybody can have a piece of the pie, or at least be able to go somewhere better off, right? Like a WWE or AEW possibly down the road, and go ahead and make your money. And just like I can't stress or emphasize that enough. So and if we can do it, cool. If we can't, it is what it is.
Just kind of trying to give people more tools, to take along.
Yeah, take along make everybody well-rounded. Like things that, like after you come out of the academy, this is how we're going to make you an overall better performer. Not just a wrestler, but everything else that goes into that. Being able to identify the cameras, being able to sell better to the cameras, being able to do your promos, how we do the promos, whether it's just look directly into the camera like Bishop does and scream and flex his arms, or we do like a little skit, and being able to help everybody get more well-rounded.
Look at cool ass Andy. He's the most over guy in the company.
Oh, fuck yeah. Dude, his bit that we filmed after one of the Hartville shows was incredible. That was
all on the fly.
And that was on the fly. Yeah, that was the best part.
Yeah, that was all kind of shotgun stuff. I said, here.
Set him and Caleb off.
Here's $20. Go to this carnival.
That was so cool.
When he's riding down that big slide.
I invested.
Shit like that, man.
I officially invested in Cool Andy. I put $20 of my own money to send him to a carnival that was taking place in the parking lot next to the flea market that we just did the show at.
Dude, all 7 of those kids had something different and something cool, like for their introduction packages, for the lack of a better word. His was so cool, and it was so different compared to Tyler Jordan, which was so different from Shelby. Alex Melee. Almost forgot it. Or Shelby, yeah. Like each one of them had something different that kind of introduced you to who they were, what they're about, and then what they're going to do. And I love that shit.
Do you get any more questions in there?
Yeah, I was going to say there's one or two more. Another one that I think is a good question comes from Scott Random. After over a year of heading up AIW kind of productions, what lessons would you say that you learned that maybe you wish you knew back when we started this? Is there anything big that you really take away from it now that if we could jump in the time machine and jump out at the Tadmore and go, Chase, set your watch to, Bill and Ted's a la.
Yeah. Oh man, I don't know, because I feel like so much that we, like, if we troubleshoot or run into a problem, it's just YouTube.
Mine
how to
would
fix
be,
it or something like that.
Mine would be to put a student at the door in East Lake and say, "Don't let anyone shut this door." At what was it, Hell on Earth?
Yeah, the yep. That was a disaster.
That's the
Shout
thing
out
is,
to
like, the thing,
Jeff
though,
from corporate.
The thing is like, oh man, Jeff from corporate. Yeah, I had to Zelle him money. I had to learn how to use Zelle that day.
Dude, the best is we had to go back a year later
nuts.
again on Black Friday to go to Micro Center again for more shit on Black Friday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because the power outlet for the Roadcaster just decided to shit the bed. That just stopped working. Why? I have no idea, but it just decided to stop working. It worked perfectly well 2 weeks prior in Black Label in Chicago. Why it decided not to work for Hell on Earth was whatever. So yeah, you and Caleb, I think, Pat, you guys went to there and found a new one. Boom, it worked. We were golden after that. But
I think, like, as far as changing
internet
things,
disaster.
like, I don't know if there's anything to change, because like we've needed every problem to like learn, like
right.
So like you need to kind of go through that experience to understand what we're doing, because I mean, we literally, like we said earlier, we took it out of the box and we plugged it in at the Winchester and we said, hey, well, like,
so fucking nuts.
Hey, Adam Lash, like, what settings are we supposed to have this shit on? Like, we don't know like anything about fucking frame rates and all that shit. Like, it's just like, hey, give me the Cliff Notes version, and like, let's go. And
to me,
it was just like boom, 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 plug this in, get this thing, plug it in here, and then see what happens.
That's
I think a small one is realizing that we could go 1080 on Fight as later as we ended up realizing versus streaming in 720. Like that was just a simple fix, and it was like, oh, we can do this. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. So being able to at least be able to stream in 1080 versus 720, like what is it in 720 nowadays? Like almost virtually nothing, right? I think that's a little one, but what were you going to say, Pat?
That was just kind of the thing that I didn't want to like pat us on the back too hard or anything, but like we literally started this from scratch with really zero idea how to do it, and we have put a show on live every single time, and there has been insane obstacles to the point of literally the Ethernet cord. A 200, you have to have a 200-foot Ethernet cord. Good luck finding a 200-foot Ethernet cord just out of nowhere. And we made it happen and put those shows on the air. And I think, you know, I mean, I'm at least proud of us for that. You know what I mean? Like John said, every problem that we've had or lesson, we made into a lesson because we overcame it and made the show ran. You know what I mean?
Now we have multiple Ethernet cables.
Right. Well, like you said, now we keep two on hand, and it's just like every major thing or fun horror story, like Jose had asked, everything like that has made us better and just more prepared going forward every time. It's crazy.
Yeah, the Ethernet getting sliced at the East Lake building is probably the worst thing that happened because we had to push,
without a doubt.
We had to push that show back like 45 minutes. That and like, you know, the first real show on Fight where I'm like lying to the guy from Fight TV, like, yeah, man, we got it. And he's just like, are you sure you don't want to hire blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, no, man, look at this. I got all this stuff. We're good. And, like, none of it's working. And I'm pretending that it's all fucking good. And, like, Caleb had to bail us out. Like, that's really, like, but every other thing that's happened, it's, like, been small little problems that we remember, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, shit, like, we forgot, we're doing video packages. Oh, you forgot to unmute, you know, like, the live, you know? So sometimes there's no sound for a minute or something. Just little things like that. But, you know, now we kind of, you know, you need it to happen before you realize that it's a mistake, you know? So it's like, I wouldn't take back any of it, honestly, because, like, you know, like, there's so much little things that we learned every single show, and we still learn every single show. I think you need it to kind of get it in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to be able to get better as a whole. Because now it's second nature to make sure that like the packages are unmuted and audio is good here and commentary's up and they're not muted for whatever reason, and all the cords are in the proper places now. Like, it just took time to learn the system on how we do it, and not just one system, but a system for each venue, because each venue presents their own different positives and negatives, whether that's a distance for the cords because we're so spaced out, or lighting, or, you know, this, that, or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is crazy how, and that's kind of one of the things too that's so crazy is we run at all these different venues. It's literally never the same place twice in a row. Even obviously, you know, we go to the same place multiple times, but we don't ever run the Tadmor twice in a row. We don't ever run the Shrine, you know, or the Masonic 2 times in a row. Like every show, it's somewhere different than the last. So we have these new challenges or like this or that. You know, it's always fun time. The final question before we get out of here, and we're running a little long here, but the final question comes from Hercules. Just kind of, you know, reminiscent on the weather here. Any stories from shows that take place, or, you know, you ever remember running AIW had wild snowstorm there, Thorne? This is one we need Biggins for, because you know he'd know right off the bat.
There was a gauntlet for the gold that got a crazy storm, and like literally like tons of like the guys that lived in Ohio called off, and Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, who drove from Iowa, still made it, you know, like so like we had to cancel the gauntlet for the gold because we didn't have 30 guys, and we named the show Nightmare Before Christmas because we had to change everything on the fly that day. And then my buddy Chris Sanka also got drunk on Christmas Ale and started a riot.
Jesus God.
And so that's like a whole other story for another day. But so like that one, there was a really bad snowstorm, and then there was a really bad snowstorm a couple months after that where we had Jerry Lawler booked and he didn't come. and then we booked Al Snow as a replacement. He was supposed to wrestle Steve Corino, and Steve Corino never made it. So like literally, Corey Graves, Sterling James Keenan was in the ring, and we're like, he did a match because we kept pushing Corino versus Al Snow later and later and later, and then he did his match, like Sterling did his match, and then we realized like Corino was not making it, so we just sent like Al Snow out there on the fly after Sterling already had a match, and they had to call a full match on the fly because, you know, of a crazy snowstorm outside. But other than that, like, I can't really think of, like, we've never canceled for weather. I know that. But yeah, those are the two that stand out. Like, I think it would have been Gauntlet for the Gold 3. But yeah, a ton of people didn't make it. But like, Seth Rollins still made it in a 9-hour car ride in a blizzard. Still made it on time. But like
that's insane.
Guys that lived like 45 minutes away were like, "Oh, there's too much snow outside."
Find out who wants to be a wrestler and who doesn't real quick.
Right. But yeah, other than that, like no other craziness. You know, I know that you guys had to get a hotel coming back from Black Label because you guys ran into a snowstorm driving back.
I think that was our first one. Yeah, we got out of there after 2 shows back to back and couldn't see a thing on the road 10 feet in front of us. So we pulled over in South Bend and ended up having to get a room just to, if not, I mean, by the time we slept and woke up in the morning and got back home, it probably would have taken the same amount of time going 25 miles an hour on a 70. So, yeah, and then I got in the car with like Dom, and right after that, it was when Buffalo got snowed in like a week after or something. So it was just from one snowstorm to the other. I mean, shit, this past summer, everybody was out there wrestling in the rain in North Canton, right?
Yeah, rain. Yeah,
massive downpour. Like,
I'm a firm believer in the show must go on, especially when you're supposed to be getting paid a fee. And you want to make sure you honor your obligation to get that check at the end of the night. But
yeah,
which I do believe, because we did that, they will be bringing us back against the mayor's wishes. We are going back again.
That's awesome.
You know, they we just heard from them.
It's election season too.
He won. That
was last.
Didn't he run unopposed?
He was unopposed.
Oh, Duke, what are you doing?
That's what we said.
But yeah, you know, I'm a firm believer in the show must go on. You know, like weather is weather. You know, but like,
you look at the NFL, it's basically like that. Like something may get like rescheduled, just like another day, like the Pittsburgh and Buffalo game last week. But up until like DeMar Hamlin died on the field, that was the only time where it was like, okay, yeah, we're done.
Well, it's hard, you know, like say, you know, blah, blah, blah's flight lands, like you got to do the show because you got to pay him anyway, you know, like
yep.
You can't say like, oh, sorry, we canceled the show. Like they're here. You know what I mean? Like I have an obligation. There's no, oh, sorry, man, my bad. Like, well, let me get you next time. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go forward. So
can you imagine?
I'm sure it happens. I mean, I'm sure there are promoters that do that, but, you know, so like you always got to kind of find a way to push forward. But, yeah, that's
dude. Like for my debut, at no point did we practice our match with a bottom rope not there. Yeah. And that snapped right before we went out, and it was like, all right, cool, go out there and do it.
I felt so bad for you. I actually walked out of the building because I was like, I couldn't let you guys know how incredibly nervous I was for you guys and how like the disaster that I thought that was about to occur. I literally walked outside.
Hey, we pulled through. We did it. I think it made it even that much more special looking back on it, maybe with a different lens, but
yeah, who uses the bottom?
That was wild.
I was just like, wow.
Dude, I ran through my match 100 times in my head. Like, did we have any bottom rope spots planned out? Because if we do, we're going to have to fix that really quick. And there were 6 of us in that. So it's not like it's easy to communicate, you know, to like one person if you're one-on-one, right?
The only thing I remember from watching the tape is like, I think it's you or Trey. I think it's Trey does a coast to coast. And there's just like no bottom rope for the person to be like, you know, leaning. So they just
so it looked a little weird.
So they just like fall right to the floor.
That's awesome though. Makes it that much more devastating.
All right. Well,
yeah, I mean,
that's
about it, right?
Yeah, that was kind of it for questions. Like I said,
Hell
we didn't
yeah.
really have too much planned. We appreciate you coming on, Chase. Anything else? Anything you want to say or get off your chest, or before we get out of here, kind of give you the platform.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't plan for an outro. I just appreciative to kind of be on it. This is my first time on the podcast. This is so fucking cool to me because I listen to it every week, right? Just to get my fix. So being on it for this week's pretty damn cool. And just being able to talk and get some of this out there to the AIW universe, kind of our plans and what we want to do going forward for 2024. Hopefully some of them care. That'd be pretty sweet. But yeah.
Yeah,
kind of here. We're doing the thing.
I definitely think you're somebody we want to have on, periodically in the future, just kind of discussing stuff, being the part of the production as well. You know what I mean? I think it's easy to just kind of pop in here and there and kind of, like this, like just kind of bullshit with what the state of the production, unit is as a whole. And, I know there's definitely people who want to hear it because that's why I asked you on. There had been a lot of people who had said, hey, get Chase on there, especially now with the production stuff, would definitely be something we'd want to hear. So appreciate you coming on.
That's awesome.
Thorn, anything you want to say?
Because I feel like we only touched the tip of the iceberg with some of it too.
Well, that's
there's
the kind
so
of
much
thing
that happens.
Yeah, you can. I definitely would want to have you back because I feel like there's just so much more we can talk about with production stuff. There's always something going on. So
yeah,
me nothing much. Let's just sell the rest of those second and third row tickets for Akron. I want to pack that place. It's selling decent, but we still have a long way to go as far as getting that shrine full for Stan and Larry at Hanson. So let's sell those tickets.
Yeah, a handful of, like you said, premium seats available. We've had some more matches get announced. We got Chuck Stone versus Trey Lamar, going to be a great match. Dex versus Mikey, high flyer match. That's going to be great. Absolutely, the first match. I want to say, was it the first match that was announced was the 4-way or no? No, I think the first was Magnum and Derek.
Magnum and Derek, yeah.
Correct. Okay, but yeah, that 4-way that was announced recently, Alec Price, Sam Holloway, Paul London, and Josh Bishop. That is just going to be an absolutely insane 4-way. We got a lot coming, so definitely get your tickets. You're throwing. Speaking of throwing people into the fire, you got Shelby Wilder, Dom Greeny. Shelby coming back from his injury, throwing him right against Dom Greeny. That should be a great match. So yeah, definitely get your tickets. Come on out to the Shrine in Akron and meet Stan Hansen.
Hopefully Dom doesn't drop him on his head because I'm going to have Shelby put on some sweats and a hoodie right after and get on floor cam.
He's pulling double duty that night.
Oh, yeah. Like, if I can do it, you can do it. Like, it's not that hard.
All right, well, that's kind of it for everybody. For myself, for John Thorne, for Chase Oliver, everybody here at AEW. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you guys next week.